Genesis chapter 12, the message. God told Abram, leave your country, your family, your father's home, for the land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation and bless you. I'll make you famous. You'll be a blessing. I'll bless those who bless you, and curse those who curse you. All the families of the earth will be a blessing through you. So Abram left just as God said, and Lot left with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai and his nephew Lot with him, along with all the possessions and people they had gotten in Haran, and set out for the land of Canaan, and arrived safe and sound. Abram passed through the country as far as Shechem and the oak of Moreh. And at that time, the Canaanites occupied the land. God appeared to Abram and said, I will give this land to your children. Abram built an altar at the place God had appeared to him. He moved on from there to the hill country east of Bethel, and pitched his tent between Bethel and the west of Ai to the east. He built an altar there and prayed to God. Abram kept moving steadily, making his way south to the Negev. Then a famine came to the land. Abram went down to Egypt to live. It was a hard famine. As he drew near to Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, Look, we both know that you're a beautiful woman. When the Egyptians see you, they're going to say, Aha, that's his wife, and kill me. But they'll let you live. Do me a favor. Tell them you're my sister. Because of you, they'll welcome me and let me live. When Abram arrived in Egypt, the Egyptians took one look and saw that his wife was stunningly beautiful. Pharaoh's princes raved over her to Pharaoh. She was taken to live with Pharaoh. Because of her, Abram got along very well. He accumulated sheep and cattle, male and female donkeys, men and women servants, and camels. But God hit Pharaoh hard because of Abram's wife Sarai. Everybody in the palace got seriously sick. Pharaoh called for Abram. What is this that you've done to me? Why didn't you tell me she's your wife? Why did you say she's my sister so that I take her as my wife? Here's your wife back. Take her and get out. Pharaoh ordered his men to get Abram out of the country. They sent him and his wife, everything he owned, on their way. The Message version is so funny, just the way that it is very contemporary. I've already made some really interesting points in the King James reading of this, but I'm going to probably reiterate a bit of it here. And in the beginning here, the very beginning of chapter 12, Abram's walking with God. He hears God. He trusts God. He does what God tells him to do. God gives him a promise that he's going to bless him. Verse 2 and 3, I'll make you a great nation and bless you, make you famous. You'll be a blessing. I'll bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. All the families of the earth will be blessed through you. He's talking about his lineage that's to come. The people, of his lineage will have this ability that's just kind of set apart from the rest of the world. Clearly. He says the whole world, he says the world, the families of the earth. This is in verse 3. All the families of the earth will be blessed through you. So there's this lineage, and then there's all the families of the earth. They're set apart. And this lineage, Abram's lineage, has the ability to where blessings flow. And the things that they do will produce blessings. But it also says that this lineage, that, if people are blessing that lineage, then they will be blessed. But if people are cursing or wreaking havoc, then they will be cursed. And that's pretty much an example is already happening here at the end of this chapter. In verse 17 onward, unbeknownst to Pharaoh, because he's thinking that Sarai is Abram's sister, not his wife. So he takes her to wife her. Who knows if he actually did, actually had a ceremony and everything. She's living there. And during this time, Abram's living pretty well. He's getting all these gifts in exchange. So who knows what really happened there? How far that all went. That makes me think a little bit, like, what really, the marriage obviously wasn't legit because her husband is still alive. Her husband is still there. She's still in a marriage. So whatever happened there, even if he did wed her, wife her, it wasn't legit in the eyes of God. Obviously, God put plagues on him and everything to get Abram's wife back. So whatever happened there, none of it was seen as real or legit. And that just makes me think again about marriages today. It's like after that first time you do it, you and some other person get married for the first time, it's kind of done unless that somebody dies. Even if you have a certificate of divorce. And this Bible will explain that a little later, why that is. It's not just a law where we're like, well, look, it says that in here, so you got to do it. No, there's a reason behind all of this. There's curses that comes with that stuff. You got to be careful who you get married to. And if it isn't your first spouse, and the first spouse is still alive walking around, I urge you to look really, really deeply into that. What that means for your soul. I know the world says that it's totally okay. The world says so many things are okay. That's not okay. And this is one that hits you in the heart because it's somebody you marry or spend time with and have known for who knows how long and bonded with, created soul ties with. That's a hard thing to break. If you're in the wrong one, you kind of want to justify it so that you can keep it, so that you don't have to go through the pain, or maybe it might bring loneliness or something. I'm not really going to get too deep into that right now, but clearly it looks as though Pharaoh had taken her as a wife. That's what it looks like here. And she can't be his wife because she has a living husband, Abram. So God didn't even recognize none of that. God cursed him. Instead, he didn't even let that sit. God cursed him to get that woman back to her husband. And I also want to put out there, I don't want to say, if you're in a marriage and it's abusive and all that, no, I'm not saying that God wants you to stay with that person. There is parts in this book that says separate, from that stuff, leave. And you should, if it's abusive, you should leave. But that doesn't mean that you can just go and get a new one or something if they're still alive. I'm just, for your soul's sake, please look into that. Look very deeply into that and really have an open heart to what God has to say about it, what Jesus has to say about it. There's a couple verses in this book that talks about the people who will enter the kingdom of heaven. And adulterers are one of those kinds of people that won't go. And this clearly is adultery. Abram and Sarai are married. I guess they separated for this time because he lied, which is another sin. And they've got this other man wifing her up and blessing Abram with all this stuff, thinking that she's available. And God just wasn't going to stand for that. He decided... He was just like, no, I've already made a promise, so that promise has to come to truth. I'm going to bless you in your land. They haven't even had children yet. So what God says is going to have to be, even despite our free will and our fears and the decisions that we're making, just out of just being human and not really trusting him. And it's hard to trust him. I get it. He's in a famine. He's scared that people are going to kill him to get his wife. Just a lot of things. It seems like desperate times. So I get it, but it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make that decision the right choice. And God shows a lot of mercy. He gets him back. He gets the wife back through these curses, which to me foreshadows Exodus. God's cursing Pharaoh to get the wife back. Like that's exactly what happens in Exodus. But yeah, like his promises, his words are ringing true already. What he said already, he's going to curse those who curse him. And in reality, Pharaoh taking his wife and trying to wife a wife that's already a wife. God's cursing that person. So already his words are coming into effect. And the chapter isn't even over yet. His words can't return void. Ever. So, it's very interesting. Let's see what happens now. He lied, which he probably shouldn't have. He probably should have trusted God a little more. But like I said, I give a lot of grace and mercy because there's so many times, all of us, but me in particular, there's so many times that I didn't trust him when things seemed so bleak and I was like, is God even here? Or I just don't even think about, God in that sense. You're just in that moment and making a choice. Nowadays, I'm trying to practice asking him about the moves that I make. Even down to, places that I go or the food that I eat and things. Like, I just talk to him about really almost anything, even if it seems insignificant at the time. And he'll answer. He does. And sometimes it's not the answer you want. But it is for your own good, for the best for you. He's not going to. There's a verse that says he's not here to harm us, but to give us hope in a future. He's here to help us. He's here to lavish us and love us. He's not here to hurt. That's the stuff that we're doing in this world. We're hurting each other. But he's not. He's trying to help us stay out of that. If we listen. And learn his ways. And so that's about it for Genesis chapter 12. There's probably a much more commentary in the King James Version. I just didn't want to repeat all the things that I'd said there. Because I imagine some people might be watching both, or I don't know. These are just the things that stuck out to me this time when I read it in this version. We're foreshadowing a lot of future things. There's Exodus foreshadowed. There's the lineage of Abram foreshadowed. And it's a very sacred lineage. And then it tells you things about that lineage as well, which means, these people, these descendants of Abraham are sacred. Makes you wonder who they are, huh? Not going to get any deeper than that. It's up to you to research. And I think this is why it's important to look up. It can be, enlightening if you're into that sort of thing. Because, really, it's just about having a relationship with God. But if you really want to understand, in more detail, just understand a lot of things about this world and the people in it, looking into the lineages that are listed, there's a reason why all those names and this person begot that person. It's literally so that it can be unmistakable to learn what people are who, even today. It seems like a bunch of nonsense almost when you're reading through chapters that's just nothing but somebody begetting somebody. But there's a reason why that's here. Everything in this book there's a reason every single word has been written. Really, it's a really amazing book for this reason. It's none of what is written in it is to be taken lightly. There's a meaning behind all of it. But anyway, I'm rambling, and that's just what I've gotten out of this during this read. Please share whatever you've gotten out of it. I appreciate you reading along with me, and tomorrow we're going to take a look at chapter 13, what happens next in Abram's life, with his wife that he got back, acting like not a man of faith, basically, in that moment. But God has got a lot of mercy, set things right. So let's see what happens next in his very interesting life that gets him to this promise that God has told him will come to pass, which means it will. So let's see how it unfolds, because it's pretty much, it is guaranteed that it's going to be what he said. So let's see how it actually plays itself out. So I wish and pray, I pray so many blessings over you. And I just pray that you have a really good day. Hedge of protection over you, God's hand and his guidance, and that you're able to take something from today's reading and apply it to your life in some way. Trust God, his plan. Trust what he says. Trust the words in this book, his promises. There's so many promises in this book. Trust it, because it will come to pass. And I can't wait to tell you about a testimony personally of how that rings so true in my life now. So it's coming soon, hopefully. Until then, or until tomorrow when we're reading chapter 13, God bless you, and thanks for watching and reading with me.